Exactly. Well, Corey, man, I'm excited to have you on today to chop it up, have some casual conversation. You've definitely come across, I know that I've known you for a few years, but you've definitely just been getting more and more recognition in the space for doing novations and nationwide wholesaling and being a force in your local market in Arizona too. And it was awesome to connect. I think it was the first time that we met in person, but we could have potentially met at like a Sean Terry event or some event in Phoenix in the past. But man, I'm a lucky guy talking to you and David on back-to-back days here.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate you having me on today. It's truly an honor.
Yeah, man, my pleasure. We'd love to hear, just for those that don't know you, just a little snapshot context of, who you are, what your interests are on the personal side and personal development things, and also just a snapshot of what your business looks like. I mentioned the nationwide wholesaling and novations as a little teaser there.
Yep. So yeah, my name is Corey Geary. I'm out of here, in Phoenix, Arizona, kind of the guru capital of the world. You
Mhm.
got all the big dogs out here like Sean Terry, Carlos, and Sal. But it's been a great place for learning because I mean that's just what it's been for me. Is just I've been around all these masterminds and been paying people for mentorship, and it's really helped my growth. And not just in real estate. I'm glad you mentioned personal development because I mean I'm big into meditation, big into the cold plunge. I just bought a really nice plunge tank that gets down to 30 degrees and it's all digital. It's naturally filtered with ozone, and I plunge every morning as part of my morning routine. And I have a very strict morning routine regimen that I stick to every day. I get up, I meditate, I pray, I do affirmations, I write my gratitude journal, I run 3 miles, and then I cold plunge. And so that's kind of a snapshot of my morning every day and kind of gets me in that warrior mode every single day to go out and crush the day. And it's been huge. Real estate has, because I didn't really dive into a lot of that stuff until I got into real estate from all these different masterminds. I was learning about the personal development side, and I stumbled upon a guy named Joe Dispenza, which I know you're familiar with. And I've read a lot of his books. One of the best ones he got is Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself. And literally, when I started integrating those meditations into my morning routine, that's when I started having six-figure months. So the law of
Mm.
attraction is real, and the way he presents his meditation really has a lot of self-discovery, and it's based around self-discovery and law of attraction. And so it's just been game changer in my business and in my personal development. And recently I've just got married. I got a 7 week old baby now, and so the personal life side of stuff has never been better in my whole entire life. Because before real estate, I was working as a blackjack dealer. And so I was just going in, dealing cards every night, partying it up, a lot of drinking, a lot of drugs, just, living the single life. And so my life has really shifted tremendously since I've gotten the real estate. So it's not just the financial part, but also the spiritual and mental and physical part too.
That go hand in hand with together, I'm sure.
They do. Absolutely. So,
Hmm.
and I got into real estate back in 2016. At the end of 2016, I flipped my first house. I was watching that show, Flip or Flop, with
Hmm.
Tarek Al Musa. And
Hmm.
I'm watching it, and I had some money saved up from the casino. And I'm with this girl at the time. She's a part time realtor and part time blackjack dealer. And we're watching the show, and she's like, "Why don't you flip a house so I can list it?" I was like, I don't know. Why don't I flip a house? You go, so it seems easy enough. It takes 30 minutes. You make $80,000. And so the next morning, I'm literally running around my neighborhood, running around the block, and I see one of those signs, those bandit signs, fix and flip, buy price, 250, ARV 350, and it had a phone number on it. And I called it, and I bought that house. It was Net Worth Realty. I don't know if you're familiar with them. They're kind of like
Hmm.
New Western. New Western's another big just acquisition wholesale house nationwide. Bought the house, took me 6 months, made 8 grand, and it was a win. So I was happy. Pulled all my 401k money out of the casino. I had my life savings in it. I was probably about 130 deep in on it to make 8 grand, but it was a great learning experience. And then I started going to these local meetups, RIAs, and I met some wholesalers. And I bought my second deal from a wholesaler. I made 20 grand on that one, fixed and flipped it. Probably took me about 3 months. And then on my third deal, I thought I knew what I was doing, thought I was a big boy, right? And I bought 4 deals all at once. We had to get a new general contractor. Yeah, big mistake. And on that deal, that general contractor, he saw a mark on our head and he took us to the cleaners, man. And all those four houses, I lost $250,000. And
Yeesh.
it was a hard reset for me. I didn't do my due diligence on the guy. I was working in the casino. He kept billing me every single week. I was paying the bills without looking at the properties, which is the most stupidest thing ever when I look back at it now. And yeah, by the time I went out the properties, I saw no work was being done. And basically, he already had taken a lot of our money. And so basically, we had to sell the houses back to the wholesaler, and we lost the money on that. You know, I lost all the money from the private, you know, the hard money and then the rehab money. So it ended up being about $250,000. So it was a pretty big hit. And at that point, I was like, man, I didn't want to give up. I was like, I wonder how these wholesalers get their deals. So I literally Googled how do wholesalers get deals. And can you guess who popped up?
Sean Terry.
Sean Terry. So Sean Terry popped up and I went down that rabbit hole. I bought his courses. I ended up joining his mastermind. I even, you know, got him for private mentorship. And to this day, I'm so blessed to call him a friend, and I could call him anytime. So he's been a very intricate part of my real estate journey and my success. So
That's awesome, man.
that's how I got into real estate.
That's awesome, man. That was my first assignment when I started wholesaling back in the day, was listening to Sean Terry's podcast. So I
Yeah.
love that. Love that, man. Well, awesome to hear that you're so much into personal development. That is an amazing, amazing routine to have going on. I definitely want to bookmark and come back to the Joe Dispenza stuff. I need to get that book, Breaking the Habit. I have Becoming Supernatural and bought some of the meditations
Yep.
as well.
Becoming Supernatural is great, but it's very robust. You have like, I don't know, 10 meditations in there.
Mm-hmm.
And to just really a good starting point is the Breaking How to Be Yourself. And that was the book that really, I think, you know, his career when he took off. And it's only one meditation, and it's the whole book is about breaking down that meditation and what the science behind each part of it is. And so
Mm-hmm.
it's a real good beginning insight to his whole world. And then
Mm-hmm.
I bought the book Becoming Supernatural. I've done a lot of his meditations in that book, and they're all great. They're all
Mm-hmm.
great. So
Mm-hmm. For sure. We'll bookmark it, or else I'll talk the whole episode on Joe Dispenza stuff. But yeah, I think with meditations, I get asked all the time, like what meditation I'm doing, things like that. The Joe Dispenza turning into supernatural from becoming supernatural. That's like 45 minutes to an hour if you're including the breath work prior to. So those are definitely more robust. But my best advice with meditations is that I would say at least stick with the same one or something similar for at least a quarter, depending
keep it
on what you're
simple.
looking to get. Yeah, keep it simple. Just stick with a consistent one every
Yep.
quarter. It doesn't matter the time. I think it's like many things in life, which I'm sure Corey will hit on. It's more about consistency than trying to do a new meditation every day or something else.
Absolutely. And I'm glad you mentioned breath work. I'm a big Wim Hof guy,
Mm-hmm.
which, you know, the cold plunge came from that, but I do a lot
Mm-hmm.
of breath work, Wim Hof breath work before I get into the plunge. And you can actually do that breath work prior to meditation, and it will allow you to go deeper into your meditation.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. For sure, love that. Well, man, let me bookmark this, or else I'm literally going to talk about this the entire time, which is funny and
Okay.
awesome. But just to go through, yeah, I think you said married with a kid.
Yep.
I can't remember, baby girl.
Baby girl, man. Yeah, she's
Okay,
amazing.
Matt, massive congrats on that. One point I want to
Thank
bring
you.
up just from my reticular activating system that I loved at this point is you said, which is different than most people, and I loved this post, is that you said, hey, she isn't my baby girl, isn't the most important thing in my life. I'm the most important thing in my life, and I need to focus on me. When I'm my best version of myself and do that consistently, then I'll be able to give her, wife, everybody else the consistent thing.
Absolutely.
And it makes sense, but some people, like most people, I would argue or say, when they have killed children or when you get your wife and everything like that, you're like, oh, this is the most important
Parents.
thing. Yeah, but I'd love you
Yeah.
to hit it briefly if you want on that paradigm, because I was like, I love that.
I love that. Yeah. Everyone's always, you know, asking what's your why? It's a big thing in our industry. What's your why? You got to have
Huge.
a why if you're going to keep being driven. And to me, you know, all these different answers, you know, that's not what your why should be. It should be yourself. If you can't truly love yourself and feel like you deserve this, you know, success and this, what you're trying to create for yourself, then you're never going to receive it, for one. And then you're not able to love somebody else and give to somebody else until you can do it for yourself first. So you can't really truly love somebody at a deep level until you love yourself. So that is massive. So you always need to be working on that. And sometimes it's you really trying to figure out who you are inside and what makes you tick and what issues you might be dealing with from ever since you were a child. And so that is the biggest thing, man. And I think Nike hit it with their little coin phrase, I am my why or something like that. It's a big I can't remember the exact phrase, but man, they nailed it. You need to be your own why. And then the other stuff like your kids, your mom, dad, wife, that's just an add-on.
Mm-hmm.
So
Love it, man. Let that seep in to your guys' thinking as Corey's breaking down his massive operation and business here and everything. Let that kind of seep in and think about that. Are you really putting yourself first in your priority and really having that amount of it might sound a little fluffy,
greedy.
but well, greedy and made fluffy of self-love and really, but it really comes down to like, are you really being your most dominant self? And are you
Absolutely.
genuinely being that? So let that,
The
I invite you guys to think about that as Corey's breaking down his entire operation. We're starting like this for you guys that follow Sean Terry as well. He says very similar stuff. The mindset's
Yep.
90, 95% of it. And then the rest of the mechanics of the business are 5, 10%. So,
Absolutely correct.
amazing guest to have talk on this. We could even do a whole mini series on this, but we'll keep it to
You could.
one podcast interview for now. Let's talk, Corey, a little bit about what the business looks like, doing the Novation deals, why you started doing Novation deals, and also why you got into nationwide from wholesaling. And I guess we could pick it up from, for better or how I can say, you ended up putting 250K on black at the casino and kind of lost it by working with that GC. So you started listening to Sean Terry, getting into personal development, mindset stuff. What did that look like getting out of the hole? And, were you tempted to get into something else besides real estate when you're like, man, me and my girl, the part-time agent, is telling me to flip these houses. I make a few bucks, lose 250K. What was that kind of like and getting out of that hole?
I never flirted with trying to get into something else because I knew real estate was a great vehicle for wealth. It's just always been taught to me. My dad was a little bit into real estate when I remember being younger. He owned a bunch of apartments and he owned a bunch of houses, was making pretty good money at it. So I knew real estate was a vehicle that I wanted to get into. And then after I looked at Sean Terry, man, I started going through that. I started putting out bandit signs. I started doing some direct mail, and it took me a few months, but I got my first deal. And it's funny, my first deal, I made 10K on it. I sold it to the wholesaler who sold me my first deal so it was like reverse cycle on that. It was
That's some Joe Dispenza. That's some Joe Dispenza quantum stuff right there.
It is right. Quantum physics stuff.
Yeah.
So and that's how I cut my teeth in the wholesaling. We slowly built up, to 2 to 3 deals a month, all the way up to about 10 deals a month. I even actually built out a cold call floor in my living room. So I put a bunch of cubicles in my living room and I had people coming over, a lot of college kids, cold calling on my behalf. Basically, I just needed a good lead generation system so I could go out and close deals, and a very cheap lead generation system. And it was. So that's what I was doing for a good year and a half while I was still working in the casino. So it was absolutely brain damage because I didn't get any sleep. But I was closing some deals, getting around, anywhere from 8 to 10 deals a month. And at a certain point, I was like, man, this is getting too much because I was managing the call floor, managing my real estate business, going out, closing deals and selling deals and working in the casino. So I ended up pivoting the call center into a virtual. So I ended up hiring a virtual company, cold calling for me. I moved into an office and then, going to masterminds and just going to all these different events around the country. I discovered Google Ads PPC. And if anyone doesn't know what Google Ads are, that's just what you go. So if you go on Google and type in, I want to sell my house fast, you're going to see a bunch of companies with their ads, and then you'll click on that ad and that charges the company based off that keyword. And so I discovered this type of marketing, outsourced it at first, was stupid expensive when I outsourced it. And I was like, man, this has got to be a cheaper way. So I brought it in-house. I learned it. And we did it. We scaled it nationwide because I wanted to get out of my own backyard so I could scale. Being in Phoenix, I felt like I kind of hit a ceiling, and it might be a limited mindset with a local deal flow. And I was like, I need to get more. And so we went nationwide, and that has been a blessing, going nationwide. So we did nationwide wholesaling at first. In the beginning, it was very difficult because obviously when you're locking up deals nationwide, you don't have a buyer's list. So we were, out of every 5 deals we locked up, maybe 1 would close. So, and I made the big mistake of, I turned all my local marketing off. And this is back in the beginning of 2020. I turned all my local marketing off and I turned on the PPC. So all that revenue that was coming from my local wholesale business stopped and I was in the red. So I was running deep in the red for like the first 3 months. First month, I lost like 50,000, second month, 30,000. And then the third month was 20,000 before we started seeing some ROI. So I would never recommend to anybody to do that. You need to keep what's paying the bills now, what's getting you fed, and make this just as a small arm of your business and scale it up slowly. And as you're starting to see ROI, then scale down the local model if you want to. You don't need to, but if you want to, then transition. And so that's what we did at first. But we're still finding we're getting a lot of leads. Obviously, like everyone gets that where the sellers have good properties and they're wanting too much. Or there might be in a market where there's not a lot of investor activity, but there's a lot of MLS activity. Well, I stumbled across this concept of Novations in a mastermind that I was in, and the guy was doing it on a local model. And I was like, okay, I wonder if I can do this on a nationwide model. And so I really started absorbing myself, learning the model. I learned from like 4 other people on how they're doing the Novations. Everyone has their take on it. And I kind of took a compilation from each, made a compilation from each person and built my own way of doing Novations. And now we're doing it nationwide. The things I love about it is you could pay more for the properties than you would cash offer. So we're locking up deals that, that people are getting lowballed on. And so they go with us. And then also what I love about it is it's completely transparent from the seller all the way to the buyer. And let me explain what Novations is a little bit. It's selling the contract on the MLS to a conventional FHA or VA finance buyer instead of an investor. And you're replacing the AB contract with the BC contract. That's the legal term in Novations, replacement of contracts. So you're able to sell them on the MLS. You're able to get more for the property than you would sell to an investor, and you're completely transparent with the seller. And so they know that we're selling to a third party. We're in wholesaling. You're trying to keep that, you're not disclosing that. And they're knowing that we're going to need walkthroughs. And on the back end, the realtors are also knowing exactly what we're doing as far as, we're bringing buyers to the table, and that we're just having we're controlling the real estate through either an attorney in fact or a power of attorney. And so we're able to sign all the listing docs and offers made from the realtors. So that's what I love about the model is the transparency and able to, monetize leads that you normally wouldn't monetize through, maybe except for creative financing. So that's what's been game changer for us.
Quick question on Novations. What's the conversation and relationship like with a seller introducing a Novation to them?
That's a good question. So in the beginning, obviously you made your cash offer, and we do that to anchor them. And after they shoot us down in the cash offer, then we go, okay, hey, Mr. Seller, we understand you need $300,000. Unfortunately, as investors, that doesn't work for us. We're not going to be your buyer because we have to make a marginal profit. But also with that being said, as investors, we excel at bringing buyers to the table to pay top dollars for these type properties. If we could partner with a buyer and bring him to the table, would you be willing to do that so you can net your $300,000? We'll take care of all the realtor fees. We'll take care of all the title fees. We'll take care of the inspections and appraisers. And we'll even take care of any inspection repair costs that's needed to pass the financial contingencies. We call it our concierge service. Now, not very many people qualify for the concierge service, but if I send this to my underwriting team and you're qualified for this program, would you be willing to go down that road? And that's kind of how we present it to them. And so it's very transparent, very upfront with them. And they love it because they're reaching out to us for convenience. Mm-hmm. And that's why they want the cash offer, because they don't have to deal with realtors and title fees. And they want to just sell their property and not worry about listing it. But we're taking care of all that for them. And we just let them know that all you got to do is sign up with the title company, sign the final HUD, and sit back and collect your check. We handle everything else.
Mm-hmm. And that makes sense. If most of them are coming to you from PPC of how to sell their house quickly, you give them the cash offer, but then you still give them an option where they make more money and sell their house quickly, which is what they originally were searching for.
Correct. So with the convenience, so I mean, the biggest thing is now is we're giving cash offers, but we're always offering a little bit more to go on the concierge service now. So like almost every deal that we get now is Novation. And I tell the team, we're a Novation company first, wholesale second.
Interesting. Very interesting. And that was exactly my next question. What percentage of deals are you actually doing innovation versus wholesale? For the properties, can they be beat up wholesale distressed properties doing Novations if it's a retail like end buyer on MLS buying it?
Yeah, that's going to be on strictly on your model on how what your risk tolerance is. So I let the team know if it's 20,000 or less, you think you're projecting in repairs, let's novate it. Anything over that, we're going to wholesale it. But you'll find, especially in our our PPC advertising, most of the properties we get are in livable condition. We might have to put a new roof on it. We might have to put a new HVAC in it. Those are big ticket items. Or we just had one the other day. We just put a new stove in it. It was VA financing, and they just requested a stove. We made 42 grand on that deal. So you let the inspector tell you what you need to do to pass the financing contingency. So you're just doing the bare minimum to make the property in livable conditions. You're not turning these into HGTV type properties. So that is the key there. So it's all about your risk tolerance and how deep you want to get in the weeds with them. But I mean, majority of the deals, man, to make them livable, it doesn't take a lot of capital.
Very cool. Yeah, if it's like 20K or under, to me that kind of sounds like a luxury rental property that a squatter would live in, for example, where it's like livable and super nice for like a squatter, but you might just need to touch it up a little bit to actually rent it out and deem it as like turnkey.
Yeah, most of the properties are just outdated. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
People have been living in them for 20 years. They haven't done a lot of repairs to them. So when the inspector goes in there, they might hit us with a roof. They might hit us with a, you need to rewire the electric panel or something like that. But most of the properties are in pretty good livable condition. They just need some things fixed.
Very
So,
cool. Very cool.
and the
Love
great
that.
thing is that if you get a cash offer on the Novation, or if it's conventional financing, you could just send them, you could just do a seller credit. So you're not even fixing nothing then. It only comes down to when you get the VA and FHA finances when you really have to get in the weeds. Unless it's something big on the conventional loan. If it's something like one of the big ticket items, you might have to do that. But if you get a cash offer on the Novation, which we do get a lot of in this market because it's crazy hot right now, then you just give them a concession. Say, okay, well, all those repairs are going to come up to about $12,000. We'll give you a concession at closing. Are you good to go on this? And almost always they take it.
Nice. Even better. Is there a reason everybody isn't doing Novations besides maybe not access to masterminds or they haven't heard of it yet?
I think that's the biggest reason. It's just not being talked about a lot in our industry. It's always been around. I think it's what like wholesaling was 20 years ago. You could always assign a contract, but it was not being taught. There wasn't the gurus out there teaching it, pushing it. It wasn't all these YouTube videos. And it's the same thing with Novations. There's only a handful of people who are doing them or even know about it. And so that's why I think it is. It's just behind the times. So there's like virtually little to no competition, you know, in this space. And it's just a fire way to monetize leads that, you know, you normally wouldn't monetize except for maybe through creative financing. So.
And the creative financing is definitely a good tool in the tool belt as well. But that comes with, I feel like the Novation is almost more just knowledge and maybe potentially different contracts and documents, where the creative financing is actually a skill set of understanding equity or lack thereof equity and being able to structure based off mortgage amounts and mortgage payments and things of that nature.
Yep, you nailed it.
I know that you have coaching and mentorship, which kind of just happened organically just from like your inner tribe where you explain a lot of stuff, but to the extent that you're willing to dive into it, and I'd love to hear about the coaching that you have available. How would someone start getting into being able to do Novation deals that's wholesaling currently listening to this?
Yeah, the best way is I always recommend to at least have some knowledge of real estate before you try to transition into this space. You know, if you're doing a couple of deals a month and you're just looking to scale, or you want to try to integrate, you know, a new tool into your tool belt, that's a great time to do, is when you understand at least how a deal works. Yeah, and you can just hit me up on Facebook, Corey Geary. We run a mastermind that revolves completely around this concept. And what it is, it's just, it teaches it teaches how to do nationwide wholesaling and Novations with PPC as your main marketing channel. And that's what the whole thing's based around, completely virtual. So we do a Zoom call every single week. You get access to all my contracts, which I spend thousands of dollars on drafting up with the Novation paperwork. And then you get to come to my office once a quarter and sit with me and watch how I work. And you get access to me and my team. And we help you, you know, actually structure these Novations deals, you know, on a nationwide basis. And it's been great. A lot of my mentees that are in the group are already killing it in the Novation space. So you can hit me up on Facebook, Corey Geary. Instagram's Geary Corey, Corey, Geary, Geary. The name of the group is New Age Wholesaling. You can go to newagewholesaling.com. Right now, it's just an order sheet, but we're building out a website that you'll be able to go there and see how they'll get a good description of how the whole program works.
Love it. You guys definitely check that out and shoot Corey a friend request on Facebook. I mean, it sounds like a no-brainer. I've heard some Novation presentations before, and it just, that's the thought that I have, is like, why isn't everybody doing this? Just because it makes sense. You can give the seller more money, be, you know, like everybody should be wholesaling, completely ethical, and then you just have unlimited reach with your buyers if you're able to list the property on MLS, and also retail finance buyers instead of just
biggest buyers list out there is the MLS.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely. So, man, I want to talk a little bit about just marketing in general. You mentioned PPC, that you're just doing that. I'm sure your day to day, you're probably just looking at that just for fun at this point, and, you know, doing stuff like this, podcasting and coaching, which is awesome. But just with someone with your experience doing wholesaling since 2016 and having a lot of success with it, I'd love to hear just kind of like your refined best insights that you would have maybe on the telecommunications marketing side of thing, as far as cold calling, you know, your perspective on do not call lists and providing data. I feel like it's a relatively big talking point of like, should I call through do not call lists? Should I not? And then also just PPC best practices. I know a lot of people that are doing nationwide stuff like Nick would definitely recommend learning PPC yourself as like a critical step to take as far as really getting a higher return, because you mentioned it's expensive to outsource that.
It is very expensive. Yeah, man, the best way to always start marketing and start getting lead flow is telecommunications, like you had said. It's just I call it the gateway drug into wholesaling. Yeah, because it's cheap, and you know, you send out a bunch of text messaging or get some cold callers, and you got leads coming in. Now the quality of lead is a lot different than PPC. I think when I was doing cold calling and text messaging, I was running around, you know, well, especially the cold calling was around 72 leads per contract here locally. And then PPC, we're running at 12 leads per contract. So it's a different mindset of seller, being that you're doing outbound versus inbound. But definitely the best way to get started is with the outbound. And when we were doing it, we did hit the do not call list. And I used to get between 1 and 2 demand letters a year. And I just chopped it up as the cost of doing business. I had an attorney that took care of everything. Every time I get a demand letter, I sent it to my attorney, and then he would squash it. And then, you know, we may have to pay like $800 or $700. I don't think I've ever paid more than $1,200. And we used to do a crap ton of RVM, you know, because I got really frustrated in the beginning when I was pulling lists and data. I was just like, I hated doing that every single month. And so I went to Batch. You know, I know you guys probably know who they are, Jesse and Evo. It's like, guys, give me the whole state of Arizona. I just want everything. What can you guys give me that for? And they did it. It cost me around 90 grand. And I got a database of almost 2 million houses. And so we would RVM 20,000 a day. When we were at our peak at RVM, we had like 6 virtual cold callers on there. And then we also did text messaging. And like I said, we would hit the do not call list, but we would scrub against the litigator list. So you don't want to hit the litigator list. You know, those ain't worth it. But the do not call, I know we got ROI out of that list. So that's just the way we did it. Now everyone's different. I'm not an attorney. There is, you know, you're treading into gray area there. So completely, it's risk tolerance is what you got to chop it up to, and how big is your risk versus, you know, reward on the back end. You want to do it, but we found that it was worth it. You know, like I said, we might get like 2 or 3 demand letters a year, and we just squash it out with an attorney. So
very, very well said. Are you focused more so on PPC just kind of how like the world is these days? And that when Corey and I are talking now, it's interesting. Facebook, Instagram, and WhatsApp were all down for a good part of a day. This week, which has a lot of people talking about, like, if your whole business is reliable on Facebook ads, like, you know, people that do that, maybe like e-commerce people, or I guess some real estate people as well, you know, they could have been hurting for potentially part of one day.
Yep. So right now we're probably at 80% PPC is what our lead flow comes from. I do keep the other 20%. So we're still doing a little bit of texting, do a little bit of cold calling. And we even have a partnership with a third-party company that's running all of our social media ads, and they front the bill. We pay them on the back end for any, we pay them on the back end of deals for deal split structure for running our marketing for us. So there's no overhead in the front end. So I try to keep a little bit diverse. That way, if Google were to shut down tomorrow for a week, I wouldn't be completely, stuck with no leads. But PPC is our main bread and butter. I mean, I love it. On the nationwide model, we're getting about $40 cost per conversion right now. The key is that I discovered is that you want to do what's called maximize conversions. And so you want to have your conversion tracking into your account where Google learns what your lookalike audience is, and they will show your ads to your lookalike audience, hence driving your cost per conversion down. So that anytime you restrict Google, whether it's geographically or on the keywords or on cost per click, your cost per conversion is going to jump through the roof. So being that we're nationwide, we do broad match on the keywords, and we're doing maximized conversions, we're able to drive that cost per conversion down into the $40 range. Otherwise, when I was doing locally with a third party company, I was spending about $500 or $600 cost per conversion. It was very expensive. So,
and typically, Corey, I'd want to get an understanding of anybody that's doing stuff virtually, how they're building a buyer's list. But I guess with the Novations, if you're doing that most of the time, that kind of eliminates that problem completely because you're just listing it.
It does, but I could touch on it with the wholesale side of things.
Yeah.
So in the very beginning, what we do is we pull the flippers out of PropStream, text them. We go to realtor.com, scrub the first 5 pages of all the realtors who represented buyers in that market, text them. And then we also bought a nationwide database of realtors that we would text. And then we would JV with local wholesalers in that market if those first few strategies didn't work. And that's how we were doing it in the beginning. Now, as we were going along, a guy by the name of Robert Wensley reached out to me, and he owns a platform called Investor Lift. So we got on that platform, and it's been game changer for wholesaling. So he literally took a platform that has a compilation of all the investor buyers onto one platform, and you can load your deal in there and blast it out and then get your deal sold. Or you could pull from a list of buyers and text them through via what's called God mode. And so that's how we've been able to wholesale our deals off market when we're not doing a Novation, was through the investor platform and realtors. But you're going to rely heavily on realtors a lot, because those guys are the ones, especially the good ones, who know the buyers in that market.
Awesome. Love it. Yeah. Investor Lift is awesome. We did when you and Nick and everybody were using it for the first year. After that, we did a co-launch with them to show that. And that's an amazing platform. We'll soon be able to link up. We'll soon be able to link up with them where you can send stuff from Investor Fuse over to Investor Lift, which is especially helpful if you're doing stuff virtually and especially nationwide. But that's awesome.
Oh, amazing. Yep.
That's awesome. Wow. So really quick, just to end on the real estate stuff, unless you had anything else that you wanted to go over, in addition to some cold callers that you've had and things of that nature on the lead gen side, what does the current team look like right now?
Current team is 3 acquisitions, 1 dispositions, 1 TC, and 1 junior dispositions, and then an in-house realtor for my local flips. So that's the current team. It's kind of small. We're looking to scale more as we're moving along here, just being very careful how we scale. I also hired a third-party company called Sharper Business Solutions to come into our company and kind of redesign the format of it with the SOPs and the KPI accountability, and they even run your Monday morning meetings for you. They almost act like as a COO of restructuring your business. So we're going through that right now. So that way, when I scale up more, especially with this Novation model, because I feel like it's endless, we have a good foundation, solid foundation to scale upon. So.
Love it. Well, man, I'm excited to see you growing here. I'm assuming that at least the near future vision, what you're meditating and visualizing on, is just building out the current Novation/wholesale business, in addition to the coaching, mentorship, and what does your day-to-day look like? I mean, you said you have a small team, and I mean, that's still a very solid sized team, and I'm sure they're doing a lot of this stuff for you.
Yeah, being a leader for those guys, being in the office, working on the coaching stuff. We're also doing a lot of pivoting in some long-term wealth game strategies. We just got into mobile home park investing. So I brought my sister into the business. She's in charge of reaching out to mobile home park sellers, underwriting the deals, making offers. So we're trying to figure out, because, with wholesaling, novations, fix and flipping, even coaching, it's a hamster wheel. And unless you figure out how to create long-term wealth, where it be through creative financing, with single family rental properties or apartment buildings, we're going into mobile home parks, you're going to be on that hamster wheel for the rest of your life. And I don't want to be 60 wholesaling houses. So I'm trying to figure out more long-term strategic plays, and the mobile home park is one way we're going to be getting into and growing that. We're under contract with our first park right now. It's 56 unit. I don't know if we'll close on it. We're in the due diligence period right now, but that's where I plan on deploying a lot of the money I'm making from the business side of wholesaling and Novations and even coaching, and deploying it into long-term wealth strategies. So that way, one day I can sit back with my daughter, and if I could choose to work if I want to work, but if I don't want to work, it's the money won't stop coming in.
Love it. How do you tie in the meditation, the Joe Dispenza stuff, the visualization, the morning routine into everything that you're looking to accomplish, like a quarter out from now? And then, you even mentioned when you're 60 years out, which I don't know how old you are, probably 30.
I'm 44.
20, 30 years. 44. Okay.
Yeah.
So even a 15, 16-year vision, how do you incorporate that into the morning routine, and maybe even being like grateful for things in the future that haven't happened yet?
That's a great question. So you got to be crystal clear on where you want to go. You want to start with the end in mind. And even in the traction model, the EOS model, I love that model, because they have what's called a VTO tracking sheet, where you fill out what your 10-year goal is, what your 5-year goal is, what your 1-year goal is. And you just need to be crystal clear of where you're going and what the end looks like. And that's what you incorporate into your visualization and your meditations. And so that's how you tie them in together. And it's been just game changer, because like I said, when I first started doing Joe Dispenza, I would meditate and visualize having a 6-figure a month company. And it was like 2 or 3 months into that meditation where my company became a 6-figure a month company. And that was just on the local model. So now I'm visualizing everything about my long-term wealth game with the mobile home parks, apartments, commercial, and how my company looks, 5, 10 years out, as far as the gross and net profit that we're making and how many deals that we're going to be doing. So the key is being crystal clear on your vision, and then integrating that into your visualization in the meditation.
I love that. What type of strategies do you have in the day-to-day moment? Because, I've been doing the morning and nighttime routines probably the last like 6 years, and have refined that over the time and go super deep into that. I remember in like 2013, 2014 range, I read Miracle Morning, and that kind of gave me a structure to that. So I was riding with that for a little bit, and I've evolved and, improved and enhanced that pretty much every quarter, kind of doing changes to it since then. One thing I'm curious about is, like, in the middle of the day, as you have stuff that might throw you off track or discourage you or anything like that, what's some like in the moment during the daily blizzard of work stuff that you can use when you're not able to sit in like a meditation or cold plunge?
Great question. So, those are it. So, like, if I'm having a stressful day and I need to get away just for a moment, I'll close my door, close the window, kind of like I do when I do a podcast. I will sit and I'll just focus on my breath for 5 minutes. Just blank out the mind, get off of what's going on in the day to day that's making you stressed out, and just focus on your breath. And you will, when you come out of that, you'll be set back to ground zero again. You'll feel refreshed. Lately, though, since I bought the cold plunge tank, I'll go home for lunch, and my home is 2 miles away from my office, and I'll plunge at lunchtime. Like yesterday I did it, and I had a stressful day yesterday. Got a couple employees we're probably letting go with this whole new sharper business structure, a lot of changes. I had a very stressful morning. Went home at lunch. I plunged for 8 minutes, got out of the plunge tank, and man, I felt amazing. The stress of the day was completely lifted off my shoulders. So it is very much key that you need to have some tools to, when you're going throughout your day, that you can unplug with. Because as entrepreneurs, we got a million things being thrown at us at any given time, and we're problem solvers, and that's all we're doing all day is solving problems. You need something to reset. So, and before I got into the role, the deep side of personal development, for me, it used to be drinking, and that was a horrible way to deal with my day-to-day issues. I haven't had a drink since Thanksgiving last year, so I'm sober now. It was very destructive. Yeah, but that's what I was utilizing for. I was dealing with all my stress and all my issues through means of drinking. And now I've replaced it with, more healthy habits that actually serve me instead of, not serving me. So
yeah, man, I can tell. I said the same thing to Nick when I first saw him coming the mastermind last week in Tampa, and I didn't even know he was coming. I'm going to Miami tonight, and we were talking about hanging in Miami again, but I didn't know he was coming. But you can just tell some people that are vibrating at a really high frequency, and I think the importance on the personal development and the consistency and the routine mixed with just going sober, like that's a deep anchor to drop as far as like this is what I'm willing to sacrifice to max myself out. So hats off to you. So I
Absolutely.
guess almost a year or 11 months if it was last Thanksgiving.
Yep. Coming on a year now. I'm very, very happy. And this year, man, I've gone through so many big ups and downs. It's been a roller coaster for me. My mom passed this year. I had a
Mm.
baby. The business has been through ups and downs. Like, I don't know how I'd have dealt with it if I was drinking. So, I mean, I literally quit at the right time and integrated a lot of this personal development stuff more deeper into my routine. And it's really grounded me so much better. So it
Mhm.
serves me.
Amazing, man. I'm curious, what does the nutrition game look like, and how has that perhaps
Yeah.
changed over
I,
time?
I'm actually part of a little biohacking mastermind
Nice.
that talks all about that. They talk about how to be on the paleo diet and what foods to look out for that that might not be serving you. Grains are pretty bad for us in general. And through that
Mhm.
mastermind, I've learned a lot. And he even talks about some meditation techniques in the mastermind. Talks about what lights are good for you. All kinds of stuff he touches on. Just it's been a good little group. I could say who he is. His name is Gabe Garcia. If you guys are familiar
I
with him,
follow him. I've loved his stuff. I haven't connected with him personally, but I follow his stuff and I love it. And have
he is a
definitely dabbled in
true,
keto.
yeah,
I've dabbled in keto a
and
good bit.
keto. He's a true guru when it comes to biohacking. Like
Mhm.
that's his true passion. Even though he does real estate, but his passion is there. And man, he's been awesome. He even when I had my baby, recommended me this book to read. And in that book, I found a very natural, organic formula to make my baby to substitute for when the mother couldn't breastfeed. And it's way better than store-bought formula. And so I make my baby's formula at home to supplement in for breast milk, and it's been awesome. It's a
Love
lot of
that,
learning
man.
there. Yeah,
Yeah. I love that, man. Well, like I said, this could be really a mini series, depending if we each had enough
it can
time
be.
to put stuff out. But I want to try to get a little bit of everything in here for you guys. And again, it's very easy to interview somebody like Corey, and he's got a lot of stuff going on, man. I appreciate the way that you show up in the world, like from afar. I know that we may have met a couple years ago, but in Tampa, it was nice to connect briefly. But just how social media is, I'm always loving when I see the Morosco Forge. I mentioned I know the CEO of that company from a different
Yeah,
mastermind, but rooting for you, wishing you massive success. And I appreciate the inspiration energy I see just from like the quick posts and the consistency of the tubs and everything like that, man.
appreciate it. Yeah, man. Thank you so much again for having me, man. True honor to be here.
Yeah, man. A pleasure and a privilege. Guys, make sure to check out Corey. I'm gonna try to get a link or some more information on the coaching, but for now, definitely reach out to him on Facebook and he'd be happy to chat with you. And hope you guys enjoyed the episode. Show Corey some love and talk to you guys soon.
Thank you.